You have 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes.
The batteries are both full. I was in phase. So 1, 2, 3. You on, mate? Right then, second half. This will last us as long or little as we need. It's essentially your opportunity to get your questions across. We have been handed 4 on paper. You're not allowed to look in. It has to be a surprise. Right, first and foremost, is there anyone in the room who would like to raise their hand and ask a question? We've got Mike Harris round the corner. Mike, shout up.
Have you got any more news regarding Alexander Stadium? You mentioned that a few times.
Any more news on Alexander Stadium, which, yes, you have mentioned a few times now.
Yes. Is this working? Yeah, it's working. Yes. That's another of the options that's there on the table. I spoke to Andy Street's Alan. Andy? Alan, yeah. He's right-hand man. Last week he was asking how things are going, and he's still very much pushing for the success of Brommies. And Alexander Stadium was mentioned again, which, as we know, is very, very underused. He was worried about putting a track inside there. I then mentioned that Cardiff was put in there in 10 days and then taken out again afterwards. He said, "Oh, I didn't realise it was only a temporary track, so you can put a track in there, no problem." I said, "No problem whatsoever." Oh, that completely changes the picture. I mean, that would be absolutely superb. We'd be a little bit lost inside it. I mean, it's with the top tier reinstated, it holds 35,000 people.
When you said a little bit lost, Nigel.
I think we'd have to probably get lots of cardboard cutouts. I mean, Cardiff looked depleted this year with 20-odd thousand in it. But it would certainly take our level right up. It certainly would be a lot better stadium than Bellevue. And we could put a track in there, no problem. The running track they're using is in the little stadium next door now, and it's hardly being used at all, the big stadium. I believe they've put a rugby pitch in the middle of it at the moment, which we could work around that. But that is another of the options that's there that we're looking at.
So not necessarily one of the ones because you didn't mention it first off, but it is something in the background should you require it.
Yeah. That is another option, yeah.
Okay, there you go. Thank you for that reminder, Mike. Any more questions from the floor? Yes, sir.
Nigel, wherever we are, whatever level we're riding at, you mentioned the promotion work that you've done. We've got to get a winning side, Nigel, because losing all the time doesn't attract any new spectators. In fact, you lose.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've been saying. Yeah, it was abysmal, some of the meetings last season. But we didn't change things quick enough, I don't think.
And the starting point's got to be 3 heat leaders, because we haven't had that for years.
Yeah.
We're going in with 1.5 heat leaders, and you're going to lose.
It didn't work. I mean, you've got to remember as well with the injuries that we had before the start of the season with Righty. The way he was riding at the end of when he guessed it for us, and the way he's riding at the end of the season before, he'd got every possibility of being a heat leader for us this year. And of course we lost him before the season had even started.
So yes, a winning team.
You're absolutely correct.
A winning team and a competitive team, as you've said. I know this is something I raised on a number of occasions, as did members of the supporters club. I've been a Speedway supporter on the terraces as well, and there's nothing that beats when you've got a true connection between riders and supporters. Now, if I'm speaking honestly and openly, there was nothing between that group of riders and the supporters this year. There were times where the supporters were fantastic with everything they did, and I personally asked a couple of the riders to go across. Some of them did, some of them refused to. That's also something that really needs to be looked at going forward, isn't it? Because that interaction between supporters and riders is essential.
I think that will come when we put together a winning team. You know, that at the end of some of the meetings last season, you know, the riders were feeling exactly the same as the supporters and ourselves. You know, they were.
We talked it down, didn't we? We talked the team down all the time.
Well, yes, yeah.
That's the problem.
That's one of the problems, yeah. And the riders were also looking at what's on Facebook, and you know, it doesn't come across well. I mean, look at the criticism that Stefan was getting from halfway through the season onwards. You know, Stefan was reading that. It hardly inspires them with confidence to get out there and put in a good performance.
When they come to the tapes, there's no passion there from the supporter, because we haven't got a leader, we haven't got someone, London or whatever of the day.
No, we need to get back into that. First of all, we need to put together a decent team. Then we can start to look at them going around with the flag. Yeah, that one's. Yeah, we can look at all of that. We'll put together a decent team.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more frustrating than seeing a rider win the race and then, because of where the pit gate is, just spinning around and going back. Even as just a minimum requirement, just coming around and getting a extra bit of atmosphere. Like the Chuckle Brothers up here with these microphones. Yeah, just seeing the riders obviously disappear back to the pits, and it, like you said, it does drain the atmosphere a bit. So, yes. I mean, first and foremost, we hope we've got a team, then we hope it's competitive, then we hope it's winning, then we hope they interact with the crowd, okay? So, small steps. Right, anyone on the floor? Yes, sir?
So regarding the Premiership, there's 7 teams this year, which many people would think is the minimum, or down to the lower end, that is viable for a league. I've spoken to people who are in the Premiership, and they believe the minimum figure to operate next season is 6. Now, there's only going to be 5 of the teams because of Wolverhampton and Peterborough. So, if it's not Birmingham who's in the Premier League, have you a view as to who that other team is likely to be to make the Premiership viable?
Shout out.
Basically, there isn't one. Nobody else wants to go up. There's more teams coming into Championship. But yeah, I mean, I haven't even gone down that road because I'm just looking into.
Stop turning it off. It's on. Go, talk.
Yeah, it's back on. No, I haven't even gone down that road thinking, you know, if we're not going into Premiership, let's just concentrate on what we're going to do. Let them worry about that in Premiership if we don't go into it.
Yes, from a wider understanding, I believe that 2 other clubs have been requested. One is continuing to deliberate. Further news will come at the AGM, I'm sure. So, not necessarily, but there we go. Right, any more questions from the floor? Yes, Kim.
I'm going back to the question now with all what you said about all the fans not behind the team. I'm sorry, the team do not get by the fans.
Well, that's
None
what
of
I'm
that
saying.
team,
There's nothing between
none
the
of that
two.
team spoke to one another in the pits. It was dead.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
also the kids, you'll see by who they voted for as Rider of the Year. The rider that bothers with the kids, or the fans. I had to shout to riders because the kids were shouting, asking for high fives, and they totally ignored them. So it's not just the fans, it's the riders. They didn't interact with anybody. Thank you.
God, that feisty from round Cradley, he said. Right, Doug is going to get some batteries, so in the meantime, right, you're back on, okay. Right, we have had one from a gentleman at the bar when you were talking about the stadium. He wants to know who currently owns the land of Perry Bar Stadium and how much would it cost to buy the land or the stadium?
Right, that's another thing that I have discussed. The land is owned by Birmingham City Council. Corbally is on a very long lease. I think there's 80 years left of the lease. Corbally bought the lease off GRA when GRA had got money problems. Right, yeah, I'm back on again for a second. Yeah, so
Birmingham City Council own the lease. Corbally have it on a very long lease. Arc lease it from Corbally, and we lease from Arc. So, if Arc did leave,
we would have the opportunity. Ooh, new batteries. We would have the opportunity of leasing directly off Corbally, but as I say, the rent is absolutely terrific. It's in the region combined of almost 250,000 a year. Just to touch on something else, this idea of it being a sports stadium and nothing else, that doesn't come into the equation at all. As councils change, these things get changed and things like that just get thrown out of the window. They could also get round that, well, that might be one way round it, saying, right, if a sports stadium needs to be kept in Perry Bar, then Alexander Stadium's there. And that would be another way to get into another that Andy Street would give to put us into Perry Bar, into Alexander. There's lots of different permutations, but to answer your question, Birmingham City Council own the stadium. Birmingham City Council want that stadium developed. Forgot to add the last bit. I actually put that to Jim at Corbally, saying, well, they've just gone bust. I think they'd gone bust the day that I actually had a face-to-face meeting with him. And I said, surely now is the ideal time for you to buy the stadium. He said, well, Nigel, I've actually gone down that route, and they've said to me, yes, it will be available, but you're not getting it on the cheap. Now, I would think, to be quite honest, the way it is at the moment, they would be wanting probably about 200 million for that site.
You can afford that, can't you? I believe, no.
You just answered it.
Oh, there you go. Judy's got one over there.
Would we not be available for lottery funding of some sort?
would you not be available for lottery funding of some sort?
Again, that's something that I've thought of, and in a lot of ways I wish when I put together the company, that it wasn't put together in the way it was. No, we're not. We couldn't have lottery funding because we're not a charity. We lose a fortune, an absolute fortune, and we could have formed the company as a not-for-profit company, but to get lottery funding, you need to be a charity.
There you go. Any more from the floor? John Boy?
Nigel, you say that they want 250 grand for the whole rent at Perry Bar. What kind of figure do you think they'd be looking at then for the stadium at the road?
That would be run in a different way, and we'd only be hiring it for our purpose. We wouldn't be hiring or wouldn't be leasing the whole stadium. We'd be on the same sort of basis as we are at Perry Bar at the moment, just leasing it for Monday nights or whatever night. We wouldn't be leasing it for 7 days a week, just our stadium, which is what we do. If we leased the stadium at Perry Bar, the whole stadium would be ours, 7 days a week. And that's the difference. That Alexander would just lease it just for that one night.
Now, I know you used the Cardiff track example when you were speaking to Andy Street and his companions, colleagues, whatever you want to call them. But on a realistic thing, is that something you've thought about how you'd be able to do it, how you'd approach it, who you could utilise, who you could get involved to do that if it was an option?
Well, obviously in Speedway it'd be Phil Morris that would be doing the groundwork on that, and Andy Street's face lit up when I mentioned the British Grand Prix. Because to him that would be absolutely fantastic, bringing the British Grand Prix to Birmingham.
Okay, Judy's back in.
A few weeks ago there was some rumours going around about Birmingham City taking over the Wheels project. Would be not facilities there for us?
City own the wheel. They closed it down.
Yeah, Birmingham City Council own Wheels, but they're also at an advanced. Yeah, but they are at a very advanced stage now, developing that project, moving forward and developing it.
Industrial units.
Yeah, that's for industrial units.
Right, just going to pick up on one from here. So this is from Jude. Do you think there'll be enough teams to form 2 tiers next season? I think that's kind of what that gent was saying over there. But obviously, Wolverhampton and Peterborough, 2 massive losses to British Speedway. But looking on the positive side, obviously what Workington have done this year is tremendous up there, and it's surely they're not going to be in and around the National Development League for too long. So do you think the current structure of 2 major leagues with the National Development League is still something? Let's go to Lawrence.
Yes, I went up to Workington the other week, and it is a superb place. It's the blueprint for what everything. Elliot, you were there at the same time as I was, and Bellevue were there. If you haven't been to Workington, get there. It's brilliant. But I was with Andrew Baines at Cardiff as well, and had a long talk with him there. I know it's a financial thing for him. That's why they've got no lights at the moment. But Workington hopefully will move up into the Championship. That's the aim. National Development League at the moment is a question mark over what's happening, because clubs are finding it very hard to continue and make any money out of it. Okay, they're producing riders, but there are a lot of the National Development League, I don't call it National League, sorry, I don't regard it as a Development League. Development League is the one we run with the Ducktail Bulls and the Buffaloes in. The National League is got a problem at the moment that there may not be enough teams to run that league, and that is a great pity, because there's a lot of riders there who are coming through the system at the moment who need somewhere to race. But if the National League isn't there, where do they go? The Championship, is a strong league, and getting Workington in will be a good thing. But I'm hoping the National League will continue. And also our league, our Middle Development League, is produce some good little riders, and I want that to continue. You know, I don't think Redcar want to do it next year because they're saying there's not enough riders around. Well, get their backsides out there. Tomorrow I should be going to the FGA meeting up in Shrewsbury. This year we've brought 7, I think, FGA riders to ride it in Speedway. That's something that tracks, if they're going to bring young riders on, I've got to go out there and find them. Go to the training schools, go to the amateur meetings, go to the grass, bring them in from that level up, but they've got to find somewhere to race. And if there's not a national league, where do they go?
Yeah, and I'm building on from that as well. Like you say, even when you look through the top British riders, Dan Bewley, Robert Lambert, Ty Woffington, they all started there. And even when you look now, even the likes of Max Perry, Max James, for example, who we've seen at Perry Bar in second halves, without that league, it would be way too much of a big step just to get them into championship racing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, riders are my part. Yeah, you have got some very good kids coming through the system. You've seen Max Perry ride, you've seen Max James riding our second halves. You've seen some of those kids who are coming through, and they are the future of Speedway. But if we haven't got a league for them, where do they go? As I said, the jump to championships then is going to be big to start with. Okay, they'll grow and they'll get better, but we need the National League.
Thank you. I got another one here. Right. Now, this one could upset the apple cart, so think about it, okay? What were your views / thoughts on the unprofessional and disrespectful behaviour of Troy Batchelor at the Championship Pairs meeting at Oxford? Why was there no club statement or reaction to it?
There was no statement from me because basically I didn't think that Troy should even have been there in the first place. That to me, your 2 best riders should be there. And of course, one of those was Nick, and he obviously couldn't be there. So I could appreciate really where Troy was coming from. Yeah, the track was diabolical. And he didn't want to be there, basically. What are your thoughts?
His first 2 rides, it was an embarrassment doing those wheelies, and he and I did have some words in the pits, and he did go out and have a good go in his 3rd ride. I'll give him his due from that point of view, but as Nigel said, he shouldn't have been there at that stage, and in all honesty, I wish we would have taken Alfie.
I was going to say, you've obviously got to put 2 riders out, it is the pairs, but if you're there with that club crest on there, surely you should do something. And I know words were had with Sedgy and Batch about it as well, weren't they?
Yeah, very much so. And I'll give Sedgy due. He did have a good go at that meeting. And Troy, as I said, the first 2 just wasn't interested. But he had a go in his 3rd one. He should have been there, doing his bit for the club, and he wasn't. And that wasn't good enough. No statement was made because we thought it was enough for the fact that people had seen it. Had he continued doing that, he would have been fined anyway because the referee would not have allowed it. He was not bona fide racing. But it was he wasn't my choice.
Right, another question. You've just mentioned the track for the pairs. So going back to the track at Perry Bar, and we talked about the inconsistencies, how it differed from week to week, whether that be on the starts or the turns or anything like that. So Lawrence, like you say, you deal with the riders. So just put it out there to everyone why it might take a home side a little bit longer to get used to a different track than an away team who've turned up there for a one-off night.
You just said that it's a one-off night, they turn up and do it. Your home team expects something that's got consistency. And, as Nigel mentioned before, 1 week we'd have it really dry, next week could be wet. John was working his socks off. John gets to Perry Bar at 6:30 on Wednesday morning. He's still there till 1 o'clock the next morning doing the track. He does what he can with what the equipment he's got. But the riders themselves have got to sometimes kick their own backsides and get out there and do it, and some of them don't.
Another thing just come into it as well is the inconsistency with the shell that we're working with as well. With every load of shell we had seemed to be completely different from the previous shell. The last lot that we had, and again John had to get it on, we needed shell on the track, but after it was delivered we realised it was basically going to dust in next to no time. Yeah, it was much too fine, and it was literally going to dust. That wouldn't bond with the original surface underneath it.
All the clay we put in.
Yeah, no matter what the amount of clay that was in, it didn't work. But it was again with the weather as much as anything, we couldn't bond that new shale in with the old shale. So there was at least one meeting where it would just slide, the new shell was just sliding around on top of the old stuff. There was this is why the problems varied week to week. Then we got the problems with, as I say, with water. With getting water onto the track. We'd start off some meetings or some Wednesdays with a bone dry track, put water on it, then it started to pour down with rain an hour before the meeting. There's problems like that. As I say, there's a big problem on the bends that the base is coming up through the shale, and no matter what you do with that track, you cannot get 3 inches of shale on top of the base. So for next season, the bends will be dug out so that base is removed. The base is basically lifted up. It isn't the fact that the shale's disappeared off the top of it. The base is somehow lifted up. And you literally can't get, if you'd run a line from the air fence over to the curb, it's impossible to get 3 inches of shale on top of that base. So that's coming through. At least that did give us a consistent line, I suppose, because there's no shale on it. But it's not ideal.
Any more questions from the floor? Right, I'll ask one about the Revy riders. Obviously, we got those going from about, I think it was about midway through the season with obviously Leo, Oliver, and we saw the numbers grow and grow week on week. We had Bomber there with Little Cruz as well. Obviously, this is something which kind of came out of nowhere, and now there's more and more interest being generated, and just getting youngsters hooked at that young age to actually being able to give it a similar go. Just how important could that be for the future of Speedway as well?
Very important indeed. You know, the Revy thing grew and grew and grew, and Pete Andrews from Centurion came on board and got the Revy agency, which has been great for us. And we've sold more bikes. We've got more kids out there. As you said, we had Cruz, James Wright boys, 2 lads up on their Revy as well. The one week, you know. And it's something that's interested other clubs now. Phil Morris and I have been talking about it as well. Glasgow are interested in doing it next year. We're also, I've been talking to Neil Thatcher that there may be within the British Junior Championship a Revy group as well. So those kids are going to therefore have that starting point, and that's something that will grow and grow and grow. E-bikes, you know, they're funny because there's no noise. First time I ever watched it was at a crash track. I was sat there talking, I think it was talking to James right there at the time, and all of a sudden I suddenly saw these bikes going by. I'm going, there's no noise. And that's the strange element to it. You know, I know that Paul Bowen's been doing some stuff with the bikes from Denmark, and that hasn't gone down very well in certain quarters anyway, because the health and safety element of it has been got to be checked into and the insurance on it. But Paul wants to push that. You know, we don't want to lose the noise of speedway bikes, do we? You know, because that's part and parcel of it. You know, the smell's not as good as it used to be, but it's still a good smell. The noise is there. But if we've got completely quiet bikes, oh, I hope it never comes. It's like these stupid electric cars. I would never have one.
Yeah, we do need some sound behind the bikes. I mean, the simplest is as I said a few weeks back, you just get a peg and a piece of cardboard and put it on a wheel.
Couldn't you put like noise like noise music on the bike so it comes out?
Music on the bike, so it's you never know.
How would you development then if you didn't have a national league next season, potentially with group teams potentially dropping out?
That is a good one, and it's something that actually we've got a BSPL meeting on Wednesday, haven't we? Oh, that's one of the things that comes up on that to be discussed. To be honest, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, as you said, I've been a great advocate of National League racing for years and bringing on juniors. We've got to have something, but it needs more tracks to say, right, we're going to do it. And I think if we had extra nights, we do a National League team. We've just said this from the beginning. We'd love to have a National League team as well as the senior team, but actually we haven't got the nights to do it. But I think more tracks have got to, you know, who can do it, have got to do it.
Is that the revenue? In other words, market it more than just one doing two clubs, two nights at one track, saying the fans took in as well.
That is a problem. You know, can people afford to come to 2 meetings in a week if they've got both on? But you know. The teams have done it this year, you know, Bellevue, Edinburgh, Oxford, you know, Leicester, you know, they've managed to fit it within their fixture list because they're not running 2 in a week usually, unless it gets to the end of the year right now. So, you know, there is potential there with a reduced fixture list against what it used to be. You know, the opportunity's there, but it's going to be a very interesting AGM, put it that way.
Yes, certainly will, and obviously the National League not quite at the, I think it was a lot more competitive obviously when Birmingham were involved, but I know there was 2015 and 2016 seasons in particular, particularly after everything that happened in 13 and 14. I know everyone who was lucky enough to witness it, they were a couple of great seasons, and yes, certainly some good moments in there. John's waving at me again.
Well, for Lawrence, here's one from fans' perspective. Averages have always been a bit of a bone of contention. What's your view on averages, Lawrence? Where would you like to see averages start? Because I've watched over the years Speedway get diluted, watered down, averages, building teams to lose as a limit. So what's your thoughts? What would you want as an average to build a team?
Well, how many points do you need to win a meeting? And that is the starting point, surely. We have some of our fellow promoters who want to reduce the limit down, and they wanted to do it last year, but we fought them and try and do it again for next year, which hopefully they'll get fought again. You know, I think the mean average is 42.5 to win a meeting, so 42.5 worked for years and years and years. Why have we got to have less than that? You know, and rolling averages as well. You know, I think it's ridiculous. You can't see what a rider's actually scoring that year. You've got to go back through the last 20 meetings. I still can't see the sense in that one either.
Going back through the years, when did the problems first start? The problems first started when the 50-point average was introduced, and it's been downhill since then. So you might have an answer there.
Yeah, like you said, at least it forces the heat leaders to be split amongst the rest, doesn't it? I guess when it's a bit of a lower one, otherwise the big boys would take them all. Any more questions? Elliot's back.
Could you do a bit like a grading system like we're doing in some? Could you have different riders in different sections, have like so many riders from different grades?
It's been tried before.
Tried, bit political.
Very political.
Indeed. Yes, sir?
Who decides on a assessed average? You saw like a certain Russian recently on a 5 average in the championship. What a joke.
Yeah, that's another thing that's being discussed at the next board meeting, not even the AGM, it's the next board meeting that's being discussed at. At the moment, it's purely and simply worked out by the BSPL board. And it's really the girls that work that out as well. It isn't even the directors, it's the girls. It's Nikki and Alice that work that out.
It's changing.
Yeah, but that is going to be changing. There's all different sort of permutations that are going to be sorted out, so we don't get the reoccurrence of some of the things that happened this season.
So could you...
Oh, that's the other thing that's going to be brought in as well, the final dates for signing riders and using riders on the run-up to the playoffs. etc.
So if you have say an assessed average, could you look at how they wide in other countries to see more idea on the average?
Yep, I think there's various different things being looked at, so we will see what happens over the winter and next season. Obviously we're here for Birmingham, but we have mentioned Midland Speedway with Wolverhampton, and I know there's one gentleman in tonight, and I know there's a couple of other heathen supporters dotted around as well. So looking at the Midland Speedway scene, like you say, you're fighting to make sure that Birmingham are the only Midlands team in 2024. But interesting to see this week coming out in the Express and Star about the potential heathens bid as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, very interesting. And I'm quite well versed with what's happening there. You just actually said something. I'm fighting to make sure that Birmingham's the only team in the Midlands. I'm not fighting to make sure. I'm not going to make sure that all the rest of them are scrapped. It just so happens that we will be the only team in the Midlands. But I mean, I think it's generally known. You know, I originated from Cradley, and I should love to see Cradley have another team in a league. I really would love to see another team from Cradley, and I should like, in some ways, to be involved in that.
Okie dokie. Do we have any more questions from the floor at all?
Would you like to be the head of the BSPR? And if you were, what would you do to change stuff?
Well, that's been mentioned before. As you know, I was a director of Badger Trust. Badger Trust was formed to look after the interests of all the badger groups throughout the United Kingdom. And it's a completely independent body. To me, BSPL should be a completely independent body. Because no matter what happens, it's absolutely impossible for Rob Godfrey, who is chair, and is also the promoter of Scunthorpe, as we know, it's absolutely impossible for him or any other person to be completely neutral. And to me, that's what it should be. And the other thing, as far as I'm concerned, it should be as it says on the tin. British Speedway promote it. They should promote British Speedway. And to me, they're not promoting British Speedway enough. Yeah, I have actually said, and it's been mentioned, if Brummies did fold, yes, I would go on as chair of BSPL.
Wouldn't it be better to run an independent body so you haven't got promoters that promote clubs doing the speed round, like independent that don't work for the clubs?
Yeah, that's what he's just saying.
Yeah.
Do you want us to continue? Mike's back in.
It's been a good move, I think, that they've appointed Phil Morris as CEO in the Premiership. Is there any plans for that to come down into the Championship?
So Phil Morris as Premiership CEO, anything like that for the Championship?
No, there's not at the moment. I think it's a bit of a trial period with Phil. He's doing a good job. Not everybody thinks he's doing a good job. But no, I think he's doing it, and certainly the meetings that I've had with him, the first meeting that I had with him regarding us going into Premiership, he'd done a really thorough job of putting everything down there that was the information that I needed. He must have spent hours on it, and God knows where he finds the hours.
While he's running.
Yeah, I mean, he's not only CEO for Premiership, obviously, he's director for Grand Prix as well. He does, the amount of hours that he spends is absolutely unbelievable, and I think he does a fantastic job.
You maybe need to leave the tyre rules.
Yeah. Phil Morris certainly is doing a fantastic job in British Speedway as well as on the Grand Prix scene as well. Any more questions before we start wrapping up this evening? Okay, right. National League, you were on about that. It's finished at Leicester. Leicester 61, Mildenhall 28. Alfie Botel scored 11 of Mildenhall's 28 points. So there you go. Aaron got 2 points.
We're losing another Birmingham asset, please.
Indeed, I apologise. Right, so we are going to be obviously summing this up on the Birmingham website. I know Dougie's going to put it on the Birmingham Speedway Supporters Club page as well if you want to recap. Just a quick plug once again for the end of season awards night. Plenty of riders coming along?
Yes.
The majority?
Majority.
The majority coming along. So that is the end of season awards night, and that is in 2 weeks' time on Friday, October the 13th at 7:30 start, and that will be taking place at Goals Petty Bar, which is that way, over there. It is admission, buffet included, £10 adults, £3 for 12 to 16s, under 11s go free, and you can get your tickets by contacting Andy on the Supporters Club page or his email address, which is dotted around anywhere. It is on the website as well, but we'll sort that. We'll plug that more. So do come and come along. We know it's been a long season. It's been testing at times, but the end of season we always like to. I was going to say let our hair down, but I'm losing mine. We'll let Nigel's hair down. How's that sound?
We will announce them. Confirm the dates in the next few days.
And we will be confirming the dates in the next few days for the final 2 meetings. So yes, we'll be having the potentially one meeting, then the end of season do, and then another meeting. That's how it works, isn't it? So, but like I say, a big thanks to Lawrence and Nigel for giving up their time for you this evening.
GP tomorrow.
GP tomorrow, tennis court pubs, 5 o'clock, go and meet them, have a drink, predictions, sweepstake. There you go, get involved. That's also mentioned on there as well. But no, a big thanks to Lawrence and Nigel for giving up their time, and obviously the Honest Thoughts bringing us up.
You have 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes.